Hey guys, it's Javi with Loan for Thought. Today I want to talk about a subject very near and dear to my heart, and something that I'm actually going through right now. For-profit and not-for-profit schools, and my personal take on it, and my experience with them so far and in the past. I've had both, as you can imagine, like most people. I've started off at community college, had some troubles, went through a rough patch. At the time, I was feeling like I needed to graduate sooner than later. I set this weird and unnecessary deadline for myself. I just was young and impatient, is the long and short of it. At the time, I started looking around and I stumbled across a pretty well-known for-profit school. It was actually very interesting because you go in there and they have these big smiles and they promise the world to you. Later I found out that that's really not the case, and I'll dive into some more detail right now. I did my research, I looked around, found some schools that were close to me, looked at their accreditation, stumbled across this major, well-known national school that is regionally recognized. Set up an appointment to swing by to learn a little bit more. They were really nice to me, and they made all these promises. And they kept saying things like, hey, we're for working adults. That's why all our classes are in the evening. The real thing that hooked me, though, was the fact that they said, hey, we have people graduating in 2 to 3 years depending on your speed. The key thing is, we're not like other schools where you want to be well-rounded. We focus on your concentration, focus on what your degree's in. That's why we complete school faster. So I thought that was great. That was music to my ears. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Come to find out, it was a little different from going through school. Some of the other things that they mentioned were scholarships and different programs that they offered to help pay for school. So these schools, they tell you there's always a way for you to pay for school. And that translates a lot of times to loans. Guess what? Even though our name here at this channel is Loan for Thought, loans are not the best thing for you. It's really better just to pay for things than actually getting a loan out. You're ending up lining someone else's pockets than your own. That's not how you build wealth. But that's a subject for a different video. They had a thing called the graduate program where they pay for the last remaining 10 classes, things like that, to really sweeten the deal and make you sign. So I signed on the dotted line, picked my classes for the semester, and they had them all locally there for me. I thought this was great. I later found out, yes, they offer the initial classes that I need, the level 100, 200 classes, but once you get into that 300, or let's not talk concentration now, that's where the issue started to shine for me. So I kept hearing, once I reached my 200 level classes and needed more specialization into what my major is, which is in finance, they tell me, hey, we'll add it. Thanks for the recommendation. Make a wish list. If you could have 15 people join the class, then we have the class. I did that, or some other folks did that as well. Find out we don't have the right professors for that. We're having a hard time finding someone to actually take on the class. A lot of excuses. And then I had to take a lot of that responsibility. They have success counselors and things like that to make sure that you're doing well in your program, but it's an automated message. Once you're in, after your first year, maybe less, they forget about you. Every school has counselors, every school has success coaches, things of that nature, but they're always there, they're always available, and they are proactive to a certain extent, and it has not been the best experience. We've actually bumped heads a couple times, very nonchalant, this is my future, this is my life, and they're just, this is your option. I've made countless comments about, hey, when are you going to have this class? I see here that I'm trying to register for a class, and this class is not available in the entire region. I live in the DC region. You're telling me we don't have an accounting professor in, what, 4 states? We don't have that? Seems a little weird to me. So a lot of these classes are held online. They hook you a little bit with these promises, smiles. You'll graduate faster by joining this program if you go full time. I have not had a class in my concentration in a classroom setting. Regrettably, I'm actually one of those people that it needs to have that interaction with my professor, to have a dialogue and exchange on the idea, on the concept. There's only so much that you could do by reading, self-learning. They have discussion boards. Discussion boards? You mean the thing that most kids reply to Saturday night, Sunday night before they're due? And there's always some folks that reply to the messages during the week, but it's a 1-2 message. I'd be surprised if anybody actually goes back to read the messages and respond to them. It's usually just the professor. I know I went on a little bit of a rant, but that's my side. Also, another observation that I see is that the staff, professors, and everybody supporting them seem to be really overworked. Maybe it's a school that I'm in, but they demand a lot from the professors. Not just from a day in, day out teaching perspective. Just to qualify for the job as a professor, every professor has to have a PhD in their field. The problem is you'll have an instructor who has a PhD or multiple master's degrees, but they are online professors at 5-6 schools, and this is what they do full time. So they never actually teach. They just create a curriculum and respond to discussion questions versus having an ongoing, engaging conversation. It's almost about a professor doing it for the money and trying to create multiple sources of income versus someone who loves to teach. The perfect example that I have is one of my favorite finance professors that I had at the school. Worked at a private equity firm for 15 years. He started his own business. Ultimately, what he did full time was he was a contractor in DoD. He was not allowed to teach full time or teach any 100 level class or higher. So he could only teach introductory fundamental finance. And the wealth of information that this professor provided was immense. This is actually the foundation of what I learned moving forward. So, and that just came from having dialogues with him, picking his brain after class, and it inspired me to go above and beyond, stand out in his class. Obviously, I have a passion for finance, but I found it incredible that this person who worked at a private equity firm, created his own business, doing finance, was not allowed to teach this class because he didn't have the PhD or academic criteria to be able to teach these class. But yet, for some reason, this person who just checks these boxes is able to teach us, who I would challenge and say that they probably don't know as much as this one professor. Now, I don't want to say that all for-profit schools are bad. Some of them are really great. I lived in a different area than I live now, and that was an immensely better region. It's just been an overall difficult experience, and I thought I would share that with everyone. My advice is probably stick to a non-profit. You could go private, you could go public school, that's fine, but understand that once you go to a for-profit school, it's a business. It's not a collegiate experience. Some of the things that you miss and don't have the benefit of receiving when you go to a for-profit school is the quality's probably not going to be there. As I just gave you that example about this one professor. The level of care. A non-for-profit, public-private school will have people who have a passion, who care about the students, who love what they do, and know that they're creating and forming young minds. The level of resources. Going to a for-profit school, the resources are very, very limited. You don't have a librarian. You don't have a wide range of books in your library. There are resources, don't get me wrong. However, the depth, the scope of the resources that you receive at a traditional public or private school are very different, such as counselors. What I see is that they have a lot of time and resources spent on recruitment and focusing on getting new clients, students. And the biggest thing that I noticed was the networking. Part of the experience of college is having a brotherhood or sisterhood, having something in common with somebody who's gonna, do well in their lives, whether it be a recruiter, manager, business owner. And this school that I'm going to, you don't feel that way because everyone's already in their careers. A lot of it's online because there's no in-campus classes. So there's no networking opportunities. I have not seen any recruiters from companies trying to recruit the student body. There's no recruiting events. There's no kind of handshaking going on. It's kind of one of the sadder parts of going to a for-profit school in my experience. And again, I live in the DC area. So the DC area is filled with government employers, contractors, nonprofit, for-profit, commercial, private. All these mixing bowls of career opportunities are here, and that's actually part of the reason why when the economy's down or unemployment is high, we in the DC area, we really don't feel it that much. So you would think that there would be plethora of recruiters kind of networking with the student body, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So again, I'm not bashing the schools or for-profit. I'm just giving you my thoughts, my opinion, and my experience. So let me know what your thoughts are. If you like this video, add a like down below. Any comments? I'm sure there will be some. Feel free to leave below. With that being said, I'm Javi with Alone for Thought. Until next time, guys.